In this video, we are going to create a feature-based solid model from this 3D scan data using Ansys Spaceclaim software. Spaceclaim is a full modeling software product that also does assemblies, drawings, and analysis, and has a very robust set of tools to work with 3D scan data. Alright, so to get started here in Spaceclaim, you can see what we have. This model is cast, basically sand cast, and you can see it's pretty rough. You can see tooling marks, parting lines, kind of wavy surfaces, definitely pretty rough in some areas, which is pretty typical of a sand cast part. It's not perfect. There might be some final machining that gets done to this. But when we reverse engineer and go back to CAD, we're going to want to build we want the design intent. We want it to be the way it was probably designed to begin with. So as we look at this, I can see we've got an angle here. We've got this on a curve here. We've got kind of this cut here. So it's good to kind of look the part over and try to come up with a game plan on how you want to model this. So for example, this is not going to be just a section and an extrude because of this angle. And what Spaceclaim is a full-blown CAD system that can generate drawings, assemblies, all your typical CAD stuff, but then has some very powerful tools to working with 3D scan data. Because right now this is just a polygon mesh. It's basically a stupid file. It has no intelligence to it. If I come over here and turn on the facets, you can see it's just polygons. The part was 3D scanned, and now we're trying to build CAD from it. So let's go ahead and set up our first. I think we're going to build this first here. So what I'm going to do is get in an end view, like you see here. I'm going to basically go into the section mode, and let's rotate. So we're going to basically cut a section through this part, but I want to move where that is. So let's come to the back and get right here where I can see basically the part. And I am going to turn off the sketch grid. This is just personal opinion or personal choice. So if I look at this part, again, you can see it's pretty rough, but we're going to want to make things flat, perpendicular, parallel, tangent, etc. And I'm going to want to build half of this and mirror it over our center line here. So in our sketch mode, you've got all your typical sketching tools. I'm going to start with a line. And what I like about Spaceclaim is you can see as you move around, you get this cross hair. So it's kind of nice because it allows you to kind of see where you're going to be drawing. So for example, let's move over here a little bit. I want to line up with that, and of course I want to be 90 degrees. Now, there's probably draft on this wall. I'm going to model this without draft because I will let the manufacturing engineer put that in where he wants it, okay? So I'm going to go straight down. Again, I'm going to kind of eyeball where, where this is. We can see there's an angle on this surface. But again, now if I want to key in dimensions, for example, I want to make that 17, I can do that, okay? So for this demo, I'm not going to key in all the dimensions, but if there are known dimensions, you can certainly put them in, okay? You can add any constraints you want, but if I kind of sketch this properly, I'm kind of doing that as I go along. Okay, and then I'm going to go right back to that center line and make sure we're 90 degrees. Okay, so there is my first sketch, or at least half of the sketch. And now what I want to do is I want to mirror it over. So I'll pick that mirror plane. Then I'll select all my geometry. And you can see just how far off this part is. But again, that's okay. I'm trying to go back to design intent. I want things to be the way they should be. So I'm going to say go ahead and end that sketch. And what we end up with, the way Spaceclaim works in what we're doing, you see it becomes a surface. So if we hide that facet, so surface is basically an enclosed sketch. So there's our first sketch, or surface, we'll call it. Now, we want to do the same thing again, and what's nice is I can just pick on this surface, basically invoke my sketch plane again, and I'm going to move it. This ensures I'm on the exact same plane as far as being parallel, and we're going to move it up again right to kind of where, as far as we can go along in there without getting into this other geometry. So now what we're going to want to do is create another cross section, but I want to make sure that the top of this cross section here is the same as the other section. And one of the cool tools I can do is I'm going to click on that surface or sketch that we created back there, and then I'm going to say project to sketch, and you can see what it's done. Let's look at this now head on and turn that other surface off. So it's actually given us a copy of the sketch here, but I only really want that top line, so I'll pick some of this and delete it. Okay, so we just have the top, and then once again you can see the casting does not match that, so we're going to want to go ahead and draw the rest of the lines here like we did last time. And you can draw right into the corner if you want, or you can just draw them short or past it. I'll show how sketching works here, or sorry, trimming here in a minute. And get that, and then that. Okay, so you can trim a couple different ways, but we can just either pick the two corners to trim something, and that should give us everything. And then we need to trim this off. Now this is just a construction center line, so I'll just make a line here just to give me something to trim to, and because the other way you can trim is just pick the piece you don't want, and then we'll just pick that line. You could keep it as, you can actually turn it into construction geometry and keep it, but we don't need it. And now we'll go ahead and mirror over our pieces here, and now we have our second sketch. Okay, so if we hide our facets and turn on our two surfaces, you can see what we have. So let's bring the facets back. So there's our two sections cut through the part. Now what we want to do next is basically loft from the first surface to the second surface, and that will build a solid body. Now I'm not going to put in the radii. You saw this one surface had a taper. We'll save all of that for later. But you can see what we have. Now the other thing we can do while we're working along here is we can do a deviation analysis. Now obviously we don't have the whole part done, but we can at least start looking at it, and just we can say, hey, show us a tolerance within, let's call this 0.5 mils, and you can kind of see what that looks like. So here where we don't have the radii put on yet, obviously it's going to show a difference. Same with some of these others, but at least we get an idea of what what it looks like. Next, let's go ahead and model this area up in here. And to get started with that, what we're going to do is pick this face, set a sketch plane, and let's move it so we're kind of up about halfway into it. We're going to look at it head on. Zoom in here. And looks like this main circle here, we'll start with this, and again we're going to want to try to make everything nice and lined up. So we'll start with that main circle there, and we'll do the same thing here using that same center line for this circle there. Let's go ahead and fit over here. We'll use a 3-point circle and pick on here. And let's go ahead and start filling in some of our lines now. And I'm just going to draw them past them here, and we'll trim them back. Now one nice thing is we can use this command here, and when you pick on a circle, it's going to automatically make it tangent. I'm just going to kind of draw it out to here. And then this one here, we will just think over here we'll do that same tangent command right there. Okay, and now let's trim this up. Let's do this first. I want to draw a center line through here that I can just use as a trim line. Now you could make a construction line and then leave that. I just tend to delete it, but that's just choice. So now I'll start coming in here and then deleting everything I don't need. Because once again, I'm going to only want to model half of it. And let's fit this corner here. And then what I'll do for this corner is use the fillet command. And you can just, if you have a corner, you can just pick it and then just push it in till you get to what you want. And then lastly, we'll just get rid of this line there. Okay, so that should give us everything there for that. And of course, then we will mirror that over. We'll pick our line, our symmetry line, and then mirror that over. So that'll give us that. And again, things don't match up perfectly, but again, we expect that for this type of part. So again, that gives us a surface, and we're going to extrude that up, and we're going to, you can see where we drew it. So we need to go 2 directions, up and down. For going down, let's just hide the facets for a minute. So I'm going to pick it. I'm going to go up 2, and I'm going to pick that bottom surface. That's going to give us the bottom height. And then to go in the other direction, I'm going to go up 2, and we're just going to pick on the mesh right there, and that'll give us our height. Now, you can see right now they're 2 separate bodies, and that's going to be by design, because what I'll want to do next now is this big round area here. Okay, so to do this round area here, what we're going to actually do is start by using that same circle so that everything lines up well. We'll pick there and make that our sketch plane and look down on it, and then go ahead and create a circle. And that'll be right at that center and snap right to that edge there. And that's all we're going to need there. So that'll be a separate surface sitting right on there. And we'll extrude that up to the top up here. Oh, let's do that again. Pick, extrude up to, and then we'll pick the top there. Okay. So that'll give us that, but now we've got to get and cut out the inside, so we'll do that next. We'll create a plane. We'll start here on the bottom, but we want to sample up in so we can see the sketch data. Let's hide the solid for just a minute. You want to move up far enough to get off that radius so you get a true representation of that sidewall. So that looks pretty good. Let's bring our solid back for a minute and go ahead and create that circle, and that's going to be from here to there, and we'll hit end. Now it's kind of sitting inside there, so what you can do is you just use your in the case I have it set up with the control and then the wheel button on the mouse, and that'll cycle through the kind of the layers, so to speak, to find what you want. So I'm going to go in the, let's go up first. We're going to do a cut, and we'll go up to this face. So that's going to cut it away that way. But then I need to do it again, still cutting, and we need to go up to and go down so we get it right at the bottom, because, again, we moved up to get that section. So we extruded it both directions. And now we've got to cut away for this kind of angle here. If we hide that, you can see that. And I think if we go into a side view here, you can see it's pretty much a kind of a linear angle cut. And to do that, we'll come in this view and just pick. And let's again sample our mesh. It really doesn't matter. I'm just going to put the mesh out here just so it's kind of off the part. We'll be able to see it. And then what I want to do is I want to turn that solid on. Let's turn the mesh off for a minute. Because what I'm going to do is actually just extract this curve here, this edge. And I do that by just clicking that. That's going to put a line on that plane, turn off the solid, back on my facets. And then I'm just going to draw a line right there, right there. We'll just come out here a little ways. Over here and down here, and then let's close that up. So we'll close all these corners. Okay, so if you look in a side view, we extracted, let me turn that back on, we extracted this edge here, and then we drew the rest there. Okay, and what that'll give us is, again, another surface, and we're going to use that. Turn off the mesh so you can see it a little better. So we'll use this. We're going to cut, and we'll just cut through. Okay. So now we have these two solids. Let's bring our mesh on one more time. We'll put the holes, all the holes in. We'll come back and do those later. I like to get all the main features first and kind of do the holes last. So that gives us just about everything, except they're obviously not joined. And so that'll be our next step. So to put these together, we are going to use the pull tool, and we're just going to hit pull. We're going to pick this surface. We're going to go up to and pick this surface there, and you can see now it's merged them together as one solid body, and everything matches up really nice. So, so far it's looking pretty good. Bring back our facets just to kind of look at it. Okay, so next is this end down here, and this has curve in this direction, and obviously has some shape going in this direction. So this one's a little more tricky. It's actually going to be a kind of a two-part operation. So to me, this looks like a big radius, and then kind of this shape here. So let's go ahead and we can do either one first. It really doesn't matter. So let's go to get in the right view here. There we go. So let's do this profile first. And again, we're going to tell it we want to create a section. And we don't really care. We can just make it anywhere. So let's just make it out here in space. That's fine. And again, we're going to want to keep symmetry. So let's do that. So we'll just start drawing some stuff here. Let's do this. Let's put in this circle first. So we're going to want to keep that on that line. And you can see that radius there is really off. But we want to keep that on that center line. Same with this slot here. And at any time we can go to the select tool and move this around, or change the size of it, add in a dimension, whatever we want to do. Okay, and then let's draw this line here. And we'll use that tangent tool here. Just makes life easier. We'll do that there. Down here, let's just go ahead and I'm going to assume this is supposed to be flat. And once again, let's use the tangency tool and go straight down. And that should give us what we need. Okay, so now it's just a matter of trimming everything up. Let's trim out these corners first and get rid of this. We'll need a line down the middle again to trim. And let's go ahead and put this radius in here. This is a large enough radius. We'll go ahead and put it in. And then last but not least, we'll get rid of our line. Okay, so we'll go ahead and mirror that over. About our symmetry line. There we go. Okay, so that's our first sketch, and we'll just leave that there for now. And then we're going to need to make this shape and then kind of intersect the two. So let's work on that next. All right, so next we want to get this shape here, this circular shape. And to do that, let's bring on the solids. Let's pick this. We're going to cut a section through there. And I want to get it down in here so we can really get as much of that curve as we can. And we're going to build a circle. We want to build it right on that line. Fit that to there. And then a second circle on the outside. Let's go right there. And then we're going to want to trim it off. Now, I don't want to trim it right here because I've got this intersecting plane. So I'm just going to maybe draw something like that to trim to for now. And so we can get rid of this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and that. Okay, so that'll give us that curve this way. Okay, so now we have these two surfaces. Let's go ahead and use our pull tool. We'll start with this one. We're going to want to go in both directions, and we'll just pull it. We don't care how far, just kind of beyond the part. And we'll do the same with this one. We'll go in both directions. We're going to hit no merge because we don't want to merge these yet. Okay. So you can see what that gives us. And basically what we want is the intersection of these two bodies. And that'll leave us the piece in the middle. Okay, so to do this, we're going to use the combine tool. We're going to click the target object, which will be this. This will be the cutting object here, and then we need to keep the regions that we want to get rid of, which will be this, and then we could pick this as well. And what we should end up with is this piece there, okay? So that gives us kind of the intersection of those two pieces. If we hide now our facets, again, we'll use the pull tool, pick this guy here. We're going to go up to that surface there, and that'll join it all together. So there's the majority of our kind of major shapes right there. Let's again bring our facets back. So, you know, it doesn't look like a tricky part, but it's actually got, you know, a few little things to it. So now it's just a matter of really putting in some of the holes and then the fillets and all of that stuff. So let's work on that. Next, we'll put in all the holes and the smaller features here. Oops. So let's take a look. So a lot of this is pretty straightforward. You've got a bunch of holes, some squares, a little bit of a recess in there. So we'll go ahead and do that next. All right, so now we have just the rest of the holes in the part, and we're just going to speed the video up through this portion because it's pretty straightforward. You know, picking those planes again, sampling the scan data, trying to follow, you know, good CAD practices with making the holes, for example, concentric. In this case, we went ahead and added some dimensions to them, and we'll just now go ahead and pull those through. So we cut those all the way through. Then we have this little kind of rectangle recessed area with a square in it. We'll sample that. We'll draw a rectangle. And then to make sure it's symmetric, we will dimension it so that it's perfectly centered on there. And we'll go ahead and move, create that surface, move it down, and then move it up to cut so we get that recess. And then we can put in the smaller square in the middle on that recess plane. And then we'll go ahead and cut that through. So that goes all the way through. And then we have just a couple more holes, one hole and one square here on the bottom of the part. So again, pick the plane, slide it up so we can get a good cross section through the scan data, and then put those on there as well and pull those through. All right, now we have this area here that's kind of recessed up, might be for strength or something, but so let's go ahead and model that. Now to do that, I'm going to get in a head-on view here and turn on our sketch plane, and let's run this all the way down right to where we meet. All right, looks like about right there. Okay, and then what we're going to do is bring back the solid body, and we want to extract this, this, and this. Then we're going to draw a line from here to there, and we'll just, I guess we can make this symmetrical if we want. So what we'll go ahead and do then is trim. Now let's get our center line in there, and then trim off this. We don't need that. This, that, and that. And then we can get rid of that line there, and let's go ahead and mirror that over. And that'll give us that feature there. And now what we can do is move that up to this face. So that'll give us that little kind of ridge, and then we can radius or angle the corners there if we want. And then I think we've got one last hole. Yep, right there. So let's pick that face and move that in somewhere so we get right on that hole. And go ahead and make that last circle. And that will be a cut. Let's go both directions and just pull that through. There we go. All right, so let's take a look. I believe that's all the features. Bring back our scan data. Now, once again, we can go to the measure tool and do that deviation analysis, picking our body, picking our mesh. And you can see, I'd say overall we look pretty good. We've got to still add some radii in there. We'll do that. But we can come in here and, give it a tolerance amount if we want. Let's make this 0.25 and take a look at that. So now we can start looking at putting in some of the fillets and maybe adding some of the major fillets. We don't necessarily have to add all the small ones, but that's really up to you. But, like this large one here, and using the pull tool, we just pick the corner. We can pick multiples at once if we like. And then we can pull on it until we get the size. We can turn the mesh on if we want, and of course we can give it a value. Let's make it 30. Okay, so we can go around and do that, and you can do a whole. Let's go to the back here for a minute. So let's say we do want to add some of the smaller radii. We can double click on it to try to get a chain all the way around, and then push in and key in an amount if we want. So adding fillets is easy. I think down in here there's kind of some major fillets here. And let's bring back on the mesh so we can kind of see it. And you kind of see as it disappears, kind of gives you an idea. And again, once again, we can type in a value. So adding fillets is easy. You can delete them too just by picking them and deleting them if you don't want them. And then I want to show one last tool that's kind of neat, and that's the cross-section tool. So if let's go back to this view head on here, and let's zoom out, and let's set up a plane, and let's just move it. I want to get somewhere in kind of this area here. Doesn't matter where. And let's bring our mesh back on. So you can see the mesh, this wall has an angle. There's actually a couple of ways we could do this, but I figured we could show the cross-section tool. And what that does is kind of cuts a cross-section through the data here, and then we can just edit it. Let's leave the facets on for a second. So for example, we could come in here if we did want to add that angle and use maybe the pull tool. I'm going to pick this face, and then I'm going to pick this corner right there and rotate it, and you're going to see what happens. So we're actually moving that face, but we're doing it in a 2D cross section. So I could pull it in like you see there. I could use the move tool, for example, and pull it out. Okay, like I'm doing there. Now, of course, I'm only doing it on that side. I could do it on both sides. But here, let's come over here and do something similar. So, and we could have done these actually at the same time, but let's just do this and pick that point, rotate it in. You could key in a value so we could make sure they were the same. And we could drive, let's see here. Okay, so let's go back and use that move tool one more time. And again, move that in and out, okay? So when we get done doing that, we're modeling here, as you see in a 2D section. And then when we go back to our 3D view, it's updated that. So that entire feature now has that angle on it. So you can kind of work in a 2D cross-section like we were doing with sketches, but actually do it on the solid body. Now, another way you can kind of do the exact same thing is just in 3D with that pull tool. So we could have picked, let's go to the pull tool. We could have picked that face, highlighted an angle, an axis, and rotated, also right there. So it's pretty cool. And you see the, I'm just going to undo that. You see the radius update as well. So you can go through and put radii and make changes right on the features, which is pretty slick. If here we wanted to add let's say a chamfer as opposed to a radii, we could do that. Okay, so you just pick on the geometry as you go along. If we wanted to, let's go back to the move tool. If we wanted to, let's say, edit the location of this hole, we could do that as well. Okay, so you could just move it in 3D. So we don't have to go back to any sketch. I'm just going to undo that. Just by using these move and pull tools, we can change things in 3D. But that's really it. I mean, we can throw the rest of the radii. From here, we could go in and generate drawings. We can do assembly modeling. It's a full CAD system with this really nice capability of working with scan data. But that is what we needed to do to model this part here. Let's bring our mesh back for one final look. And again, we can just throw in a few more fillets if we want them, but this is pretty much done. If you would like to learn more or schedule a web-based demo, you can call us at 877-845-2700 or send us an email at info@ems3d.com.